Hello everybody, welcome to That's Football. Arsenal beat Spurs 3-2 in the North London derby. A fantastic game which actually was closer than it probably was if you actually watched the game. But I'm going to say two things here. First of all, Arsenal deserve to win this league title. They do. Forget the 115. Forget the juggernaut that Man City are. They are so easily the best team in the league, Man City, for many reasons. But on pure integrity, and I'm not talking about money, Arsenal deserve it. They play the better football. They've conceded the less goals. They've scored the most goals. I don't know what more Arsenal could do to win this league, because they probably still won't. Because Man City are that good with such a big advantage that even an Arsenal team like this will probably finish short. But for me, they deserve it. We're at that point now where I think Arsenal are clear to me the most deserving title holders or winners. People will say, well, how can you deserve it if you don't get the points? You're absolutely correct. But what I'm saying is, I just think Arsenal deserve it. I think they've been the best team, and there's not a lot more they could have done. That Man City will probably win it because they are just a juggernaut. But I think Arsenal really do deserve it, in my opinion. The second thing I would say as well is that I don't want to talk about the officiating, but proceed to talk about the officiating. But how is the referee not giving that Declan Rice one when it actually happened? Like, what did he think happened, and what did he think Declan Rice kicking the player in the nuts instead of kicking the ball wasn't a penalty? Now, thank God VAR was there to make him go and have a look at it. But this referee, I don't know why he's held up as England's best referee and will probably represent us in the Euros. Like, it's amazing to me that he gets forced to go and have a look at it on the screen and give the penalty. He didn't see it in real life. But also, this is the guy that didn't give the Doku penalty on McAllister in a massive last minute at Anfield a few weeks ago. So, look, I don't want to talk about that, but it's absolutely incredible. And for any Liverpool fan watching, you must sit there and go, the inconsistency is just baffling at this stage. But that is worth mentioning, because that was the pathway for Spurs to be back in the game. I mean, if Spurs had equalised at the end, I'd have said, football bloody hell, because I just don't actually understand how Spurs made it close. Arsenal 3-0 up at half-time, there's no way back. And then 3-2 and Spurs are pumping balls into the box. And you think, Arsenal are like this far away from drawing a game that they shouldn't be drawing. But that's football, isn't it? Because the first goal comes from a mistake by Raya. The second goal comes from a penalty where I have sympathy with Declan Rice. We've all been there. You're watching the ball, you go to kick the ball's not there, you kick a player. It's not deliberate, it's completely accidental, it's a penalty, but that's why Spurs got back in the game. And two things that were really not of their own making. If Spurs had have actually created a chance in the second half, they might have got a draw out of that, which is incredible. So, look, football's a funny old game, isn't it? But big shout out to Arsenal. They've got 3 games to go. They've got Everton and Bournemouth at home, which I'd expect them to win. United away, I'd say they'll probably win that one. But I still don't know whether... I still think City will probably win their last 5 games, which won't be enough, unfortunately. But they were brilliant today, Arsenal. I think that game is... They've come through some really tough games recently as well. I think that Wolves away was a difficult one. Chelsea at home could have been difficult. Spurs at home, Spurs away, and they've taken 9 points. I mean, that's really good. And they've had their setbacks from the Champions League, and obviously that Villa loss as well. They got levelled and labelled as bottlers, and they're quite clearly not. They've quite clearly progressed from last season. And I think they got 84 points last year. They'll definitely beat that this year, and they're definitely a better team this year. And defensively, they're a better team, and offensively, they're a better team. And it's improvement for Arsenal that does warrant a title, but that's not how this league works at the moment, because we do just have a very dominant team in it that's very, very hard to beat. But I thought that the way that they came into this game in a North London derby away from home, no team's going to be more motivated to pop their bubble than Spurs in the Premier League. And they just couldn't live with them, really. There were a few debatable decisions, but the real quality came from Arsenal. The Saka goal was magnificent. I think Ben Davies could do better, knowing he's going to come on his left foot, but it was a really, really intelligent breakaway. Their set pieces have been superb. Their defence has been brilliant. And at times it was men against boys. And I think from a Spurs point of view, Newcastle, they got battered. Arsenal, they're 3-0 down at half time. They're not in Europe. They've had 2 weeks off. Most of their team is fit. And I just think as a Spurs fan, you'd look at that and go, where's the hunger? Where's the passion? I said before this game, I can't predict it. When you look at Everton against Liverpool, Liverpool are better than Everton, but it's at Goodison Park and Everton turn it into a derby and they win. And I thought before the game, I think Arsenal are better than Spurs, but Spurs are a good team. It's a North London derby. It's at Spurs. I need to see the first 10 minutes to see where this is going to go. And after 10 minutes, I really did think Arsenal were going to win because Spurs just never ignited it into what it needed to be. They never turned it into a derby. And I don't get that. I don't know why they didn't play the game as a derby. I don't know why they weren't motivated to cup final mentality levels. It was, I think Romero always gives them that, but I think a few of their players just didn't turn up again. And they definitely miss a Harry Kane. I know there was this talk that they don't miss Harry Kane, but they definitely do miss a Harry Kane because when you play Son, Werner and Kulusevski as your front three, they're all wingers. Like there's no person to hold the ball up. There's no person to get physical with Saliba and Gabriel. And I think actually bringing Richarlison on changed that. He's a bit of a shithouse. He's a bit physical and it did change the dynamics of the game. But Spurs have become a little bit predictable at the moment. And I can see them struggling at Chelsea on Thursday, and I can see them struggling against Liverpool at Anfield next week. I think Spurs are in a position where the fourth place is probably gone. They're 7 points behind Villa. They've got 2 games in hand, and I don't think they're going to turn that around. I really don't. I think Villa could probably lose a couple of games and still get fourth place. And Spurs are probably a little bit lucky that the teams behind them, like United and Newcastle and Chelsea, have been so entrenched in their own problems this season that they've not really got the time or the points to pressure them in that 5th place. So for Spurs, it looks like being a bit of a nothing end to the season. They'll be back in Europe next season. They'll be back in the Europa League. But it probably should have been, from Spurs' point of view, considering Villa have got European football, I think Spurs should have been pushing for that 4th place a little bit more. But having said that, in Ange's first season, it was very hard to predict what they were going to do. And it has been a good season, but probably a disappointing end to the season. But for Arsenal, the hope goes on. You've just got to try and win your games, which is what they've done, and hope against hope that Man City somewhere along the line slip up. I just don't see it. I've said it so many times. When you look at Man City in the last 10 years, and their final 5 games, their win ratio is ridiculous. And I think Man City have already dropped the points they're going to drop this season. I mean, they've lost 3 and they've drawn 7. That's a lot for a Man City side. So I think they've left the door ajar already. And even, it's the story of the Premier League, really. Arsenal have been superb this year. And for me, they deserve to win the league. But it's still probably not going to be enough. And I think this is Man City on an 8. I think Man City last season were on a 10. This is Man City on an 8, and they're still that far ahead of everybody. So we're hoping there's some sort of miracle that Man City drop some points along the way. But Arsenal, for me, take the plaudits. I think they deserve to win the league. But I just have this feeling it's still going to be a little bit too short, which just shows you the dominance of Man City and how far ahead they are. Get your comments in below. Smash a like on the video. I'll speak to you on the next one. Do you think Arsenal deserve it? And do you think Spurs deserve where they're going to finish up too? Take care. I'll speak to you on the next one. I'm live on the United Stand at 7 o'clock.